The fact is that we are in a global competitive environment, and these were investment policies that were put in place to attract manufacturing into our province. I find very puzzling that people criticize so much the Samsung deal.
I want you to tell me it's okay, so I don't have to worry anymore. I really want you to change my mind. That's the God's truth. I mean, I've done my own research and I'm not comfortable with it, and I came here hoping that an expert can make me feel good so that I can sleep for a night and I don't wake up in the morning and worry about my home, my health, and my environment. Amen. Please do it. My name is and I honestly, if you can make me feel that I'm not going to have the birds around me, my home, and my environment ruined, I'd feel so good.
The honest answer, no, I'll keep it to 30 seconds, because the only possible answer is with the heart. I have 3 children, and like any responsible parent in this group, I would never ever put my children in harm's way. Never ever. And I would gladly live with my family in a farm with my own wind farm. My own wind farm. That's the only thing. Would I allow my children to live underneath a wind turbine? Yes, I would. Why would I do that? Because I've done it already. I spend a lot of time in Denmark, a country that has 20% of its electricity coming from wind power. In Denmark, pretty much in any farming area that you are in that country, you will be within the vicinity of a wind installation, or you will have your own wind installation. The way the farmers treat renewable energy there, and in that I disagree with what John said. Wind power is part of a renewable energy continuum. For us to be able to have a sustainable society, we require to have complementary renewable energy resources. Wind, as John pointed out, sometimes is intermittent. And to deal with that, we need to have other strategies in place. And I have, my youngest daughter is 8, and she at the time was the youngest person to climb a wind turbine. And we climbed a wind turbine because I wanted my children to see this technology themselves firsthand. This is the technology of the future, and I look at the young people here in this audience. I have no axe to grind. I declare already to you how I do my income. I do research for a living paid by the taxpayers in a university. That is the honest answer. And this is the promise I make to everybody in this room, and I give you my word of honor about that. If I ever run into anything that I consider to cost me an arm, you got my word of honor that I will come back to this same school and tell you. But for 20 years, I came to this country in 1989 to study renewable energy, and I can tell you, nothing is consequence-free. But renewable energy, and wind in particular, is the lowest risk for humanity.
I don't claim to know a lot about wind turbines, but we ourselves own an 80 kilowatt turbine and live in very close proximity to a large commercial within 100 meters. As far as our health issues, I don't think I'm going senile. My wife and I raised 5 healthy children. Our dog just gave birth to 6 healthy puppies. And the earthworms are pushing out of the ground, especially with this rain, right up close to the turbines. Am I a huge fan of wind turbines? Not at all. But I think a combination of various sources of electricity is necessary if we want to live the lifestyle we enjoy with all its conveniences. Then we have to be willing to sacrifice.
And I'm really concerned about the environment, and I want these renewable energy projects to work. I really want them to. But I wonder if we could do if the setback was more, maybe 1,000 instead of 500, would that be better? Would that be considered better by the experts here?
Who are you asking the questions? Both of them?
Yes.
Okay. You want to go now?
Yeah, absolutely. We're called Wind Concerns Ontario, not be against wind turbines under all circumstances Ontario. Our point has been really simple. Before we can consider supporting any developments, we need an epidemiological health study to understand why people are currently getting sick at the setbacks we have in Ontario. I know of at least one person whose neighbor in Low Banks does have trouble sleeping at nights on some nights because of the noise coming from the turbine. So it depends who you talk to. Not everybody does get sick. We're not saying everybody does, but what we're saying is enough people do that it's worth a study to determine the setback distance. The industry doesn't want a health study to determine the setback distance. 550 works because of our concession roads in Ontario, not because of what's considered safe for human health.
Be an appropriate setback. I think the one we have in place is sufficient. The offshore wind moratorium that was put in place has even a bigger setback in place, and yet an offshore wind moratorium was put in place to allow time to amass enough evidence. I have one of my master's researchers by now becoming a PhD student, and he's going to be going to the only place in the world where there is an offshore wind farm in a lake. This is in Sweden. And he will be conducting this research because we need to provide people with practical answers. My students, for example, have measured noise. A group of my students has finished a noise study. And the biggest problem that they have with the noise study is that the machines produce two types of noise: aerodynamic noise and mechanical noise. So it's very difficult to actually measure wind noise, because by definition the wind needs to be blowing. So it's very difficult to isolate the wind that makes the microphones. But we are working on this. This is the purpose of Ontario Public Education. We're funded by all of you, and this is exactly what we're doing. Waterloo is doing studies, Guelph, McMaster, York, U of T, but these studies take a long time.
I have a question with regards to what has happened to the support for private farmers. The wind turbines have all gone to large commercial corporations, Samsung, and you name it. Guys that want to start on their own, put a turbine up at our green energy minded, are left basically out in the cold to support themselves, and it seems like the support is all going to the large corporations. Thank you.
As far as private farmers, I agree. The Liberals dropped the ball. The Feed and Tear program is equally unpopular with corporations because it violates our free trade agreement. Local farmers are the ones who are the victims of these projects. They're often the ones taken advantage of by these companies by trading you or somebody else a few $1,000 so they can make a few $100,000 a year on that turbine.
The key thing about renewable energy for local communities is that it would give a community like yours independence. That is independence from the oil cartels, the nuclear industry, the coal industry, because your farmers would be able to provide the necessary renewable energy resources for you to have your houses heated in the winter, cooled in the summer, to power electric transportation. That is the future. It is possible to do. And also to provide the electricity we need to run our farms, our industries, our businesses.
6 o'clock tonight, the total wind energy into the Ontario grid was 6.6%. Could you please tell me, sir, how many of these industrial wind machines Ontario needs to produce the 20 or 30% that the wind companies are promising us by 2024, I believe?
question correctly, to satisfy 30% of the electricity generation of Ontario on an annual basis, how many wind turbines would we require? Is that what you're asking? Well, at the moment, the installed capacity on the province of nuclear, coal, oil, hydro, etc., it's about 31,000 megawatts, and that generates our needs. Those 31,000 megawatts would require, if we were to do a straight comparison, about 12,000 megawatt to 18,000 megawatt, depending where you put them, of wind power. Each turbine, as you call them, industrial size, would be of about 2 megawatts, so you can do the quick math.
Ended a speech by the chair of the Canadian Wind Energy Association, who proudly reported we could meet 20% of installed capacity with wind energy in 20 years. It was within 20 years with a land mass the size of Prince Edward Island as a country. So 1.3 million acres of land would be required to get us to 20% capacity based on the Canadian Wind Energy Association's own information.
Patches are available at the door. They look just like this. They would make a wonderful, environmentally friendly gift for friends and family.
Right.